We learn from the mistakes of life. But let's be honest, sometimes life could be a bit gentler with its lessons. The memory of Priscilla's first encounter with Gustavo was as clear as if it had happened just a day earlier. She vividly remembered how the afternoon sunlight fell on his hair as he laughed, unpretentiously, with friends at an outdoor cafe. At that magical moment, when their eyes met, a silent certainty took hold of Priscilla. She wanted to spend every future day by his side. The love that sprouted in her heart was pure and overwhelming, a fresh and intense flame. They started dating, which quickly turned into the best period of Priscilla's life. Gustavo treated her with a kindness and attention worthy of fairy tales. He often surprised Priscilla with small gestures, flowers after a tiring day, affectionate messages to wish her a good morning, and evenings dedicated to candlelit dinners that he prepared himself. "You are the reason for my smile every day," he used to say, making her feel like the most loved woman in the world. However, as time passed, shadows began to subtly insinuate themselves into their relationship. Gustavo, who had always shown himself to be sweet and attentive, began to change his behavior. The transformation was not abrupt, but the small jabs of sarcasm became increasingly frequent. Priscilla, who had relaxed into the comfort of love, no longer maintained the rigor in her personal care routine, which resulted in a noticeable weight gain. She tried to ignore Gustavo's comments at first, but they became impossible to forget. "You know, if you don't take care of yourself, soon you won't even fit through the door, right?" Gustavo would say these words with a smile that did not reach his eyes, making it clear that there was a harsh truth behind his joking tone. Priscilla, hurt, tried to respond lightly. "Ah, Gustavo, you're always so dramatic," she would say, trying to keep the mood light, although each word he said left a small scratch on her heart. The subtle changes in Gustavo's behavior, from charming prince to harsh critic, confused and hurt Priscilla. She wondered what had changed, what she had done wrong to trigger this transformation in him. Sadness began to seep in silently, among the moments of joy that still tried to survive in their relationship. Gustavo's jokes, initially sporadic and seemingly innocent, became a painful constant in Priscilla's life. Each meeting with friends or family seemed to provide him new opportunities to make comments about her weight, disguised as jokes. And he was the only one who laughed. Sometimes, after a particularly sharp remark, he would look around as if seeking approval, but only found the silent discomfort of those present. "Oh my God! How can you be so silly? Do you really need to talk like that?" Priscilla retorted, visibly hurt, while trying to maintain her composure in front of friends who laughed awkwardly. "I'm just joking with you, fatty, but you don't need to talk like that in front of others, for heaven's sake. Stop the nonsense. You know you're beautiful no matter what and that I love you." "I do love you even like this," Gustavo replied, with a smile that sought to soften his words. However, the intended affection was overshadowed by the joking tone he couldn't completely disguise. Priscilla, in turn, tried to shield herself against the pain, pretending to be indifferent. "It's nothing, he's just joking," as she told herself, trying to minimize the situation. But the accumulated sadness weighed more heavily each day. Moreover, the battle with the scale was becoming increasingly challenging. Despite her regular visits to the gym and efforts to maintain a balanced diet, the numbers on the scale continued to rise. After 2 years of dating, she realized she had gained nearly 15 kilos. While exercising one Tuesday afternoon, a disturbing thought struck her: what if I never get back to my previous weight? What if the jokes never stop? The idea that these dynamics might permanently define her relationship with Gustavo filled her with silent despair. She wondered how the man who promised to love her under any circumstances could be the same one who now seemed to find so much pleasure in belittling her. The arrival of the pandemic exacerbated an already complicated situation for Priscilla. Confined at home like millions of other people around the world, she was overwhelmed by increasing anxiety. Every news about the virus's progress, every story of an acquaintance losing their job or facing financial difficulties, added layers of fear to her already fragile emotional state. What will I do if I lose my job? What if someone I love gets sick? These questions echoed incessantly in her mind, while she sought refuge in the only comfort that seemed within reach: food. Without the possibility to attend the gym, her exercise routine was abruptly interrupted, and the impact was immediate. Amid the isolation and increasing stress, Priscilla saw her weight reach a level she had never imagined, 100 kilos. This number, reflected on the scale, marked not just a physical change but symbolized the depth of the personal crisis she was undergoing. "This is the worst moment of my life," she confided to a friend via message, feeling completely lost. As she battled her internal demons, Gustavo, who had always hidden behind the veil of jokes, completely dropped the mask. The jokes gave way to openly aggressive and humiliating criticisms. "You see what the pandemic has done to you? This is unacceptable, Priscilla," he said, looking at her with disdain. In one of these confrontations, he went even further, threatening to end the relationship. "If you don't get back to what you were before, I don't know if I can continue with this. You need to lose this weight." Gustavo's words, far from motivating any improvement, only deepened the pit of self-loathing in which Priscilla found herself. Each of his comments was like a blow, further undermining her self-esteem and leaving her in a state of constant despair. In moments of solitude, she wondered how the man who claimed to love her could be so cruel. The emotional pain these interactions caused seemed unbearable, and Priscilla felt increasingly isolated in her own home, a place that should have been her refuge, but had turned into a battleground. Gustavo, with a mix of exasperation and frustration evident on his face, once again reproached Priscilla with growing fervor. He gestured towards the mirror, his voice raised with impatience. "Priscilla, for God's sake. I've said it like 500 times. Look at yourself, look in the mirror, try to understand where your neglect has led you. It used to be cute, it used to be endearing, but now it's beyond all limits. I don't see you doing anything to improve, understand? I'm not to blame for us living through a pandemic," Priscilla said. "Oh really, but everyone lived through it, everyone." Gustavo, glancing briefly at the mirror beside her, admitted without any trace of empathy, "But look at me, I didn't gain weight like you did." Priscilla, with tears threatening to form in her eyes, argued in a last effort to find some understanding. "I have a tendency to gain weight, can't you see that?" "Gah, Priscilla, that's just an excuse. Come on. What you lack is shame on your face. And another thing, the pandemic is over, why haven't you lost weight yet? I'm not asking for a model as a girlfriend, but you know, this way, it's not okay. No one wants a girlfriend like this, you know? Obese sloppy." Gustavo hurled these words with relentless cruelty, exacerbating the tone of reproach and disdain. Each word was a blow, each phrase a deepening of the wound in her heart. Priscilla felt increasingly isolated, misunderstood, and diminished by the person who once promised to love her unconditionally. The relationship, which had once been a haven of love and acceptance, had transformed into a field of verbal battles, where understanding and respect seemed to have completely disappeared. Priscilla was aware that Gustavo's attitude was harmful and toxic, but a part of her still believed that he might be right about the need for her to take care of herself. At just 25 years old, she felt the pressure of not being able to stay overweight, not just for health or aesthetic reasons, but because she deeply feared that Gustavo would leave her. He made no secret that the end of the relationship was a real possibility if she did not change her body. Driven by intense love and paralyzing fear of losing Gustavo, Priscilla embarked on a desperate journey to lose weight. It became a daily battle, a true war against her own body. She adopted the most extreme diets she could find: soup diets, point systems, apple-based diets, tea regimens, eating only once a day or limiting herself to liquids. There was no method Priscilla didn't try in her frantic quest to lose weight. However, this radical approach was unsustainable and often led to cycles of severe restriction followed by episodes of binge eating. "Just one more diet and I can do it," she would tell herself with each new attempt. But after a few days of strict discipline, the pressure became unbearable. Isolated in her kitchen, late at night, Priscilla found herself succumbing to repressed hunger. She would eat an entire pizza alone or devour 2 bars of chocolate in less than 5 minutes, swallowing each piece with a mix of despair and self-reproach. What if someone finds out, she worried, tormented by the shame of her secret actions. These moments of loss of control were kept in absolute secrecy, as Priscilla could not bear the idea that someone might witness her weakness. With each cycle, the feeling of failure intensified, leaving her more hopeless and alone in her struggle. It was a vicious cycle that wore down her physical and mental health, keeping her trapped in a battle that seemed to have no end. Priscilla's problems with eating quickly developed into serious eating disorders. Initially, she simply chewed food and then spit it out, a desperate tactic to enjoy the flavors without absorbing the calories. This behavior was an attempt to control her weight in an extreme way, but soon evolved into even more harmful practices. Bulimia became part of her routine, with frequent episodes where Priscilla would binge eat only to induce vomiting afterward. These moments were of profound sadness and anguish for her, and each episode wrapped her further in a veil of depression. Gustavo, on his part, observed Priscilla's deterioration, but his reactions were superficially concerned. In a rare moment of confrontation, he told her, "You shouldn't be doing this to yourself, Priscilla. It's not healthy." But the words rang hollow, and Priscilla could feel that, deep down, his real concern was merely aesthetic. He wanted her to lose weight, no matter how. Her mother's concern began when she noticed something deeper than just Priscilla's weight loss. She saw the emptiness in her eyes and the lack of joy that had always characterized her daughter. One afternoon, as Priscilla sat silently, her mother sat down beside her, taking her hands gently. With a voice full of concern yet firm, she said, "Priscilla, my daughter, I've seen how sad you are. It goes beyond your weight. You are not well, and I am here to help." With tears welling up, Priscilla finally let down the barriers she had built around herself. "Mom, I am really struggling and I don't know what to do anymore," she confessed, her voice trembling with emotion. Determined to help her daughter find her way back to health and happiness, Priscilla's mother arranged a series of appointments. She accompanied Priscilla to the doctor for a complete checkup, scheduled an appointment with a psychologist to address her mental health and self-esteem issues, and consulted a nutritionist to reformulate Priscilla's eating habits in a healthy and sustainable way. "Let's take care of this together," she assured Priscilla, offering unwavering support. Exhausted from facing her problems alone and feeling finally understood, Priscilla accepted the help with an open heart. "I know I need this, Mom. I don't know how to thank you," Priscilla expressed, with gratitude and relief for no longer being alone on this journey. With the support of professionals and the constant encouragement of her mother, Priscilla began to implement new habits in her life. She learned about balanced nutrition, stress management techniques, and methods to strengthen her self-esteem. It was a slow and sometimes frustrating process, with good days interspersed with bad ones. But with each small progress, Priscilla began to feel stronger, healthier, and more in control of her life. After a long period of treatment and adjustments to her lifestyle, Priscilla managed to reduce her weight from 100 to 55 kilograms, an achievement she had never imagined possible. The impact of this transformation was immense, not only physically but also emotionally and psychologically. "I have never felt so good, so alive," she shared with a friend, radiant. Priscilla rediscovered herself, not just as someone who had lost weight but as a woman who had regained her health and happiness, feeling more beautiful and happy than ever before. Priscilla reveled in the compliments from Gustavo, which constantly flowed, enveloping her in a cloud of admiration and pride. For her, this attention was the sweet reward for all the sacrifices, each rigorous diet and exhausting session at the gym. Her boyfriend not only noticed but made it a point to express how proud he was of her transformation. On the streets, heads turned in her direction, with looks of approval and admiration, a new and intoxicating sensation for Priscilla, making her feel powerful, desired, invincible. But as often happens, the reality beneath the shiny surface was much more complex and dark. One quiet afternoon, while Gustavo rested, he inadvertently left his computer unlocked in the living room. Priscilla, while arranging some papers next to the computer, noticed the screen displaying Gustavo's email inbox. Driven by a sudden and rare impulse of curiosity, and perhaps some subconscious premonition, she hesitated, her conscience warning her about privacy, but the temptation was too strong to ignore. Slowly, almost as if against her own will, Priscilla approached the computer. What she found in the open messages was devastating. Emails exchanged between Gustavo and a co-worker revealed an intimate and affectionate relationship. The emails, filled with declarations of love and plans for the future, clearly showed that what they shared went beyond a mere physical attraction. They were emotionally involved for weeks. The words on the screen seemed to leap at her, each phrase a direct blow to the heart. "I can't wait to see you again," said one. "I thought about you all night," stated another. And perhaps the most painful of all, you understand me like no one else. The discovery was a visceral blow to Priscilla, like a punch in the stomach that left her breathless and dizzy. She felt betrayed not just emotionally, but also in all the efforts she had made to become the person Gustavo desired. She had changed her appearance, her body, and even aspects of her personality, all in an attempt to fit his ideal of perfection. With tears starting to well up in her eyes, she murmured to herself in a trembling whisper, "All this for what? For him to betray me just as I became everything he wanted?" It was a cruel and ironic thought. The promises of eternal love that Gustavo had so often proclaimed now seemed like nothing more than empty words lost to the wind. Priscilla sat down as she tried to absorb the impact of the betrayal. The initial shock gave way to profound sadness, and she knew that from that moment on, nothing would be the same. The trust she had in Gustavo, and in her own ability to judge and trust people, was irreparably broken. The irony of the situation only became more bitter when, confronted by Priscilla, Gustavo began to express his dissatisfaction with her new version. "You know what, Priscilla? You've changed a lot lately. You're annoying, that's the truth," he said, with cutting frankness. Am I annoying? You can't be serious? Am I annoying now?" Priscilla responded, her voice trembling with incredulity mixed with the pain of betrayal. "You only talk about the gym, diet, looking beautiful. It's, very superficial, very shallow," Gustavo continued, clearly dissatisfied with the priorities that he himself had imposed on her. "Oh, this must be a joke," she retorted ironically, almost laughing at the cruel irony. "I miss the girlfriend I had before," he admitted, a hint of nostalgia in his voice, as if he regretted the loss of something he himself had destroyed. "It was you, Gustavo, you who humiliated me, who insulted me, and said that if I didn't lose weight you would end things with me," Priscilla accused, her words laden with resentment and sadness. Unfortunately, you don't know how to find a middle ground in life. We kind of disconnected. You really are beautiful, you always have been, but even more so now. But look, really, I think it's not working out, we don't have anything in common anymore," Gustavo concluded, signaling the end of the relationship, his voice a mix of compliments and criticisms that sounded empty and insincere. This conclusion, although painful, brought a bitter clarity to Priscilla. The truth was that no matter how much she changed, it would never be enough for someone who could not appreciate the essence of who she truly was. In that tumultuous moment, Priscilla felt an overwhelming urge to physically confront Gustavo, to express all her anger and frustration with gestures as violent as the emotions bubbling inside her. Looking at Gustavo's face, which had so often appeared kind and was now just a mask of indifference, she could hardly believe how betrayed and diminished she felt. "After everything you've seen, all the changes I've made, how can you call me annoying and attack everything I am?" she questioned, her voice trembling with emotion. "I just don't understand, Gustavo. What was the purpose of all my transformation if, in the end, none of it mattered to you?" Priscilla continued, each word loaded with disillusionment and pain. Previously, she had feared being left because she did not fit the beauty ideal Gustavo desired. He had made it clear he found her lacking, and she internalized that judgment, turning it into a constant fear of betrayal. Now, even after achieving the standard he so valued, he had betrayed her. What did that say about him? About them? For a while, Priscilla excessively blamed herself, tormenting herself with thoughts that she was the failure, that she never did anything right, that she was the reason Gustavo sought someone else. She tortured herself, thinking she could have prevented his infidelity if she had been somehow different. But eventually, a deep and painful realization settled. It wasn't about her, it was about him. Betrayal is never about the person betrayed, but about the character of the betrayer. Priscilla reflected on this and spoke with new resolve. "You know, Gustavo, it doesn't matter if someone is the most perfect person in the world. If you lack integrity, none of it matters. You're going to mess up anyway. And nothing, absolutely nothing justifies betraying and lying to someone who trusted you." She learned, through pain and disillusionment, that it's not worth living in a relationship where she is the only one investing, the only one truly caring. It makes no sense to keep trying to please someone who, deep down, will never value who you are, Priscilla concluded, with a clarifying sadness. If we had to end this way, it's because, deep down, there never really was an us. It was just me fighting for both of us. It took me a while, but now I see that it was all an illusion, said Priscilla, finally accepting the harsh truth. The pain of realizing she had devoted so much of herself to a ghost of a relationship was sharp but necessary. Now, strengthened by the truth, she was ready to move forward, alone, but free from the illusion that had imprisoned her.